All right, so the very next section is very important because we are going to be introducing, first off, how to set up your chart of accounts, but also how to open up a portable file. Okay? Well, in this case, here is something that you need to know, and it's very imperative that you do remember this key feature, okay? Here, we're looking at QuickBooks, right? Here's a whole bunch of portable files that are working data files that I've used. Now, for those who downloaded all those portable files, they look like this, right? Now, in this case, right, I've mentioned this maybe to some people, maybe some people haven't. You need to have the program in order to open this file, okay? So let's say in the book, right, it tells us that we need to utilize, okay, setup 21 for QuickBooks M, which is the portable file. Now, if I go ahead and locate that, right, QuickBooks setup, okay, so we got signature, okay, we got sales setup, right? If I want to try to double click on this, what's going to happen is you're going to get an error message. You cannot access the file without having the program, okay? No matter if you have it viewed as a PDF or a Adobe file, right? Because it depends on certain computers, right? Certain computers will recognize it as a different file type. You will not be able to access it, right? One reason is because, one, it's password protected, and two, that's exactly it, right? You can't just access the file whenever you like, okay? So in this case, right, I may have all the files that I need, but I can't access them unless I have the program. So this is where I'm going to teach you how to utilize the program to open up a portable file. This is going to be the same exact way that we create or to open up a backup file, right? So in this case, we're going to be taking a look at this middle section right here where we're going to click open in or restore a file. Now, if I click that, if you remember from lesson chapter 1, it gives me options on what kind of file I am looking to open, okay? So as mentioned before, right, the very first one is a working data file, which is the one that you typically open up and you add in all your transactions and so on and so forth. Next option is to open up a backup, and last one is going to be restoring a portable file. Now, if you have the accountant's version or the student version right now, you should be able to have access to open up the accountant's copy, okay? But in this case, we're going to ignore that because our main focus is we're not going to be looking at accountant's copy. We're going to be looking at open up a portable file. So all the files that you downloaded that came with the book, they're all going to be in forms of portable files, okay? And my best recommendation for you is when you are trying to open and save these files, designate a spot, okay? And I'll talk about that, what I mean by that. So in this case, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select the option that I want to choose. So in this case, I want to open up a portable file, okay? And I'm going to click next. So now I need to locate where my portable file is. So in this case, I have it actually in my documents under LVPITA, which is under accounting, which is under QuickBooks class, QuickBooks portable files, final QuickBook student portable files. And I'm going to designate or locate that setup 21, which is right here, okay? And I'm going to double click on it. Now the next question is going to ask you is, where do you want to save this file? So if you remember from yesterday's lesson, I said that at the end of the day, what I'm doing here is I'm making my portable files and my backup copies are just mere copies of my working data file. Now that when I'm trying to open or restore these backup or portable data file, what I need to do is now I need to recreate or create a new working data file. So that's what essentially I'm going to be doing. It's asking me is where is the place I want to save so I can create my new data file. Well, I'm going to go ahead and click next. And if you remember from earlier, now this is also very crucial because what it's going to have you do is it's going to automatically try to save it to your local C drive. Okay? Now, if you're not the admin of your own computer, you can't be able to do this. Okay? So what I recommend is that if you are the admin, then obviously you can bypass that, but in most cases, it will not allow you to do it. You do need to do some special settings for that. But in this case, what I recommend you to do is to create a folder, whether it's on the desktop, whether it is in your folders, wherever you want to put it, right? In your documents. And that's what I've done so far. See, it automatically took me to my local C drive. You need to be the admin of your computer for you to be able to save it on your local C drive. Okay? And in this case, like I've mentioned before, I've located in my documents under LVPITA, Accounting QuickBooks class, QuickBooks portable files, and I've already created a folder for our class, which is the AM QuickBooks for January 31st. Now, if I click that, look here. Here are my current working data files, right? I created Imagine Photography. I've also created Coffee Cafe. So if you look down below, my title here or my working data file that I'm trying to create is called Setup 21. Okay? And I'm going to go ahead and save it here. Okay? So once I saved it, so now it's actually taking that portable file and it's uncompressing it, and now it's expanding it to the point where it is filling in all the information that was the copy that was compressed earlier, right? Because a portable file is different from a backup file, right? They're both copies of the working data file, but one of them is compressed to a point where it's easy to be able to send through email. So in this case, that's exactly what it's doing. It's expanding it and creating a working data file with filling in all the information that you need to be able to continue working on this file. Now, first thing it asks me is, wait, this is password protected, okay? In your book, it will always give you the file that you need as well as the password you need, okay? So every chapter here on out, the very beginning of the page, it will give you this box telling you which file you need to use for that chapter, and it tells you the exact password that you need in order to unlock that file, okay? So you don't need to figure out where the password is. It's not on one page. It's on every single page of the chapter. It says it right in the beginning of every chapter. So in this case, boom, it's Questiva 21 with a capital Q. So again, every password is always case sensitive. So as you can see, it's telling me, hey, don't put in your password yet. You have your cap locks on. So it even warns you what you can before doing anything. So in this case, I'm going to undo my cap locks, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and type in my password, right? It was Questiva, Questiva 21, enter, okay? And then it gives you this saying, hey, you need to update this file. So again, since this file was created back in July of 2021, it's right now fast forward February 2022. So therefore, that's a lot of time that has passed in between and a lot of updates have happened. So in this case, I need to update my file and I say yes. Okay, so you may have to go through that same bar again, but most cases it should give you a message bar saying, hey, we successfully uploaded your file. You click OK, and then everything starts opening up from there. Okay. So again, it is very crucial that you do have internet, okay? And the second thing too is you need to have at least enough RAM on your computer. So here's my message saying, there you go. QuickBooks has successfully opened up your file. I click OK. Now again, the faster your computer or the more random access memory you have. So right now I'm running on an 8 gigabyte RAM hard drive. It's running pretty smooth, or at least decently, right? And my internet is pretty decent. So if you have internet plus a fast computer system, then you can run this program smoothly without any issues or any complications. But if you have a slow computer or not enough random access memory, or if you are having slow internet, that green bar can take either 5 to 10 minutes or even an hour to open up your file. So again, it really depends, and especially you need to check out those your ratio aspects in order for you to download that program. Okay. All right. So again, it opened up my Accountant Center, which I don't need, and here I am, fresh on my home page. And my icon bar is on the left and my menu bar is at the top. All right, and that is how you open up a portable file. Okay. We will talk about creating a backup and a portable file towards the end of this class, because again, every single chapter is going to just release a piece of information that you need to know. So for now, I taught you how to open and restore a portable file, which is the same as opening a backup file. But when creating a backup file or creating a portable file, it's slightly different, okay? So there you go, all right? So here we are at my home page. So the first thing we said here is I want to create my chart of accounts, okay? So what is a chart of accounts? As I've mentioned before, right? It is a means for you to organize your ideas or your transactions, your business transactions, into accounts so that you can easily manage your money. Now again, rule of thumb here is you're dealing with money, okay? So everything needs to be in terms of dollar value, okay? So if I spent $100 on buying inventory, then I need to record that I spent $100 from my checking account and I need to put $100 into inventory. That's how you have to understand when I'm looking at a transaction and how to be able to take that transaction and be able to organize my ideas, right? I spent money, but I spent money to buy inventory, okay? Now, once again, we talked about account types yesterday, so just a refresher. We have assets, okay, which is going to be everything that you own, okay? Now, in each account type, there's going to be what's called sub-account types, okay? And I'll talk about that in a second, but your main 5 account types are your assets, liabilities, equity, income, and expenses, okay? Okay, in this course, it's out of order. So the first one is your assets, which is everything that you own. So anything in terms of money, your bank account, your property, your equipment, your inventory, everything that you have ownership over, okay? And then liabilities are everything that you owe to other people. So whether you owe a vendor for buying stuff on an account, or you owe sales tax to the state and local agency, or 3, you owe money to the bank by taking a bank loan, all right? Equity is going to reflect the total net worth of the company. So what my company is worth as of today, whether I put my own money to invest into the company, whether I gained profits and reinvest into the company, or if I took money out from the company, right? That's going to determine how much value my company is worth, okay? And then, of course, income is how you generate money. How did you pull money into the company? And expenses is going to be the money that you spent in order to operate your company, okay? So again, let's talk about activating account numbers, and I'll show you what the chart of accounts look like. There are 2 main ways to get to the chart of accounts, okay? Right here on your home page under company, okay, you have it right here, chart of accounts, okay? First icon on here is your chart of accounts, okay? Your second main way is going to be under list, and you got the chart of accounts right here. You're also able to find it under company as well, your chart of accounts. You just have to kind of look for it. It is towards the bottom of this chart of accounts. But again, the main way is your home page and your menu bar for list. Okay, this one's kind of like an extra one. Is it necessary that you need to know? I mean, if you found it on your company section of your home page, then most likely you're going to find it on the company section of your menu bar. But in this case, like I said, the main ways are your home page, company under company, and your list menu, chart of accounts, the first one, okay? You need to absolutely have your chart of accounts prior to starting your transactions, okay? So let's go ahead and either go through the list in chart of accounts, or you can go ahead and go on your home page. So as I mentioned before, right, your chart of accounts is going to look like this, where it's listed in order based on account type. So here, my assets are first, my liabilities are next, my equity comes next, my income, and then my expenses are last, okay? Now, does it have to be in this order? There is one way that you can reorder, and we'll talk about that in a few couple minutes here. But in this case, that's just the default settings. As I said, that's just how it should be organized, okay? Now, notice this. Let's notice that why is it that only some of these have numbers on the right side and then the rest of them don't? We call these registers, okay? So we'll take a dive into registers more when we go into chapter 4, like how to use a register. But if you remember from yesterday, right, what is a register? Well, if I take a look at my savings account, a register is more or less like a ledger account where you have a list of all your transactions. It's going to give you whether you have a debit or credit, and it's going to give you your account balance at the end of the day. So that's the same, what a register does here in QuickBooks, okay? Now, let me tell you why specific accounts have registers and others don't, okay? So we're going to talk about the difference between permanent accounts and temporary accounts. Your permanent accounts are going to be anything that's an asset, liability, and equity. Those ones will always have registers, okay? Only your temporary, which is your income and your expenses, will not have registers. They only have quick reports, okay? So therefore, they don't have account balances in my income or my expense account, okay? Now, why is that? I'll give you an example. A permanent account is going to be more or less accounts that should never close out at the end of any given period. So take your bank account, for example, right? Can I close my bank account at the end of every single month? It's a bank account, right? What does it mean if I close my bank account?
You're closing your business.
You're closing your business. Thank you. So then, therefore, is that any means that you need to close your bank account? No, especially if you're continuing doing operations as normal. Take a loan for instance, right? Can I just choose to just close out my loan whenever I'd like? If you have the money to pay it off, but let's say I owe $30,000. Can I just choose to close out my loan?
No.
No, absolutely not, because one or two things, right? You either file for bankruptcy, then you can be scot-free, or two, they're still going to come after you no matter what, okay? Now, that's an example of why permanent accounts cannot be closed. But what about temporary accounts? What about income and expenses? Why can they close out at the end of any given accounting period? In this case, right, it is the perfect measurement of profitability, right? Income, right, is how you generate money, how you pull money into the company, right? Can you predict your sales to be the same every single month?
No.
No, right? You may have a regular customer that can come in and buy the same thing from you every single day. But what if one day that customer decides to come in and say, I want something different? Can you predict that? Absolutely not. Okay? So and then on top of that, you're not going to get the same customers, right? You're going to get constant new customers. You're going to lose a few old customers. So in this case, that's a perfect measurement of how you're generating income, right? Same thing with expenses, right? If for example, expenses, right? You can have what's called fixed expenses, which is typical of rent expense, right? Rent expense is usually a flat rate that you incur every single month. So for example, $1,500 this month, $1,500 next month, $1,500 the next month. But the difference between that a fixed expense and a regular expense is that, okay, I have rent that I need to pay every single month. But let's say it's the month of July. I have the opportunity to take advantage of July 4th because it's an opportunity to promote myself. So I need to spend some money for advertising expense. But is there a holiday in August? No, right? Except you want the end of the summer sale. Yes, you can do that. Feel free. But at the end of the day, there's no real holiday in August. So is it necessary for me to have to spend money on advertising or promoting my company? No. So in that case, you have it in like a fluctuation between expenses because maybe this month I incurred the expense, next month I didn't incur the expense. And that is a way that we can say, well, at the end of the day, I can measure my expenses, right, against my income, saying for this month, did I earn enough income to cover my expenses or did my expenses exceed my sales? So in this case, that is why expenses and income do not have registers because they close out at the end of the given accounting period, whenever you choose to feel so. In this case, it's closed out every single day, all right? So therefore, that's the reason why we have registers, these numbers here on the right side for certain accounts, and then the other ones you don't have. So again, this is a pre-made chart of accounts, right? This is a file that we've already accessed before, or I'm sorry, excuse me. This is a new file that we're accessing for an existing company. So in this case, this chart of accounts has already been created. Now, I mentioned this, right? Every transaction that you do in QuickBooks when you try to organize your thoughts and ideas, you need to create an account so you're able to take one portion of the money and divide it in between those accounts. Now, is it necessary that you have to have every single account necessary for your in order to do accounting for your business? No. Right? But you should definitely have the basic ones so then you can understand, okay, well, I know that I have rent, so I need to make sure I have rent. My checking account is already standard. It's already going to be there. And then things like, oh, I need to buy inventory. So you should have those accounts already there. But of course, with the given idea that every expense, right, you can incur a new expense in another month. If so, you are able to add any account at any given time in your chart of accounts whenever you'd like. You are not restricted to already knowing your company ahead of time and creating a chart of accounts based off of that. No, that's
So I have a
realistically
question.
not. Go for it.
Sorry. You like I just missed it. Is it you saying like we could open one account and we could like open multiple business in same account?
No, this is only
Okay.
one business.
Okay, but we can't, like, for example, I have account in a bank.
Hmm.
I could like open multiple business in same account. No.
No, this is only, you can only have one business for each account. Now, what I think what you're trying to ask me is these multiple accounts,
Hmm.
they're all for one business.
No, multiple business in one account.
No.
Okay, thank you.
I see. Okay. But if you are, and this is only for corporations, if you are a merged company, then yes. But that's more way level advanced. We're not going to talk about corporations at all here because especially for merging companies. No, we're not going to talk about that. That's way too far advanced. But for here, no. One bank account is for one business. Now the rest of these accounts, right, stem out from doing business. Okay? So again, my business of operations, right? How do I generate income? I must sell a product. If I sell a product, that means I'm going to charge sales tax. Then I'm going to receive money. But how do I buy those items? I must buy inventory. Okay? So again, this is all stemming out from one business aspect. But no, you cannot have one account be for multiple businesses. No. Okay? And then we'll talk about that too. When you create a company file, in QuickBooks, you can create multiple company files. You're not restricted to just one, and you have unlimited amount of company files that you can create. Okay. However, can you use two company files at the same time? No, you can only work on one at one time. Right?
May I ask a question?
Yes, go for it.
So if I only have Premiere, I can use that same software for two different companies?
Yes, you can do it as many companies as you like, as long as you set them up accordingly. But you cannot combine the two unless you create a combined company file that has both companies in there, which is very
So-
difficult to do.
So with QuickBooks, I can have company A, B, or C all together in one software.
Correct. You can have as many, you can have 30, you can have 100, you can have 50.
Will they charge me more?
No, it is unlimited.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
But, however, depending on your software, correct? Since each company file can hold about, for Premiere, each company file can hold about 1 million transactions. If you go beyond that, then yes, that's when they start charging. Or, for example, you need a specific, like we'll talk about payroll. If you need a service to pay your employees, that's extra. If you need to have the bank account be able to process credit cards, that's also another charge. So this right here with the basic parts I'm showing you are free, but anything extra, I will let you know what additional money you have to charge in order to be able to complete the transaction. Okay. So again, yep.
May I again? Like, for example, I have two companies. One is Farm LLC. I have farmers. And then I have equipment, which is I own, and I form another company so that I can rent out my equipment. So that can all be together in that Premiere.
Yes, you can use Premiere to do, yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because my customers are different from my farm products and then from my rental equipment.
Yes, and we'll talk about that when we dive into chapter 4 and chapter 2.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Right. All right, so going back to my chart of accounts. So here it is, right? So I got registers. I got how my chart of accounts is organized. Now let's take a look here. Now my chart of accounts, like notice this, these are what's called type accounts, okay? My assets is broken down into banks, accounts receivable, other current assets, and so on and so forth, right? And then and fixed assets, okay? And then other assets, right? There's about 5 levels of each account type, okay? And these are called subtype accounts, okay? So again, it takes the main account of the asset and breaks it down to even further. Now in accounting we call these as categories. In QuickBooks they're called subtype accounts. Okay, so you can understand this. It's not sub accounts; these are subtype. Okay, all right. And then now now they're divided into even further means. So again, my bank account's usually at the top. It's organized based on each item is based on their categories, which each category is going to be representing something. So for your assets, it's usually organized by how liquid your cash is. Okay, how easily readily available cash is. So again, my bank account's at the top, and at the very end are my patents, which is called other assets, right? Those are difficult to get your money out from, okay? And then liabilities is organized based on how long you owe them for. So again, anything that's like government-wise or like vendors that usually give you 30, 60, 90 days to owe them on is going to be at the top. While people that you owe for the bank, for loans, usually they're typically 5 to 10 to 6 years. That's going to be down at the bottom. So again, that's another organization that you could see here in your chart of accounts. Okay? So enough about that. So let's talk about how we actually enter in an account in our chart of accounts. So very first one is, let's talk about account numbers. Now notice this right here on my left side, I don't have account numbers. Everything is just account names. Now, is it necessary for you to use account numbers? No, but it's definitely a lot more easier, especially if you're using this and you're frequently using this quite often. It's much easier to memorize a 5-digit code versus memorizing an account name, right? Because look, we got other account names that could be very extensive, like this one is employee payroll taxes payable, right? That's a pretty long name. You might be able to memorize employee taxes, but you're not going to memorize the whole entire name. So they do recommend you to use account numbers to make it a little more easier to memorize, right? Again, a 5-digit code is way more easier to memorize than a whole entire paragraph, right? So in this case, how do we activate our account numbers? Well, that's going to be considered a preference that you choose, whether it's on your profile or the company's profile, okay? In this case, you're going to go to Edit, and you're going to go to Preferences to activate those account numbers. So I'm going to click on Accounting. I'm going to click on Company, and the very first one here is, do I want to use account numbers? And I'm going to select this, and I'm going to click OK. So because I have that setting changed, boom, now my accounts have account numbers. Okay? So again, you don't absolutely need this, but if you want to have it, it's optional, yes.
I see that the numbers popped up. Are those by default or they were already entered previously?
They are by default, correct.
They're by default.
Mm-hmm. Now,
also by default, would it be bank first and then going down?
it'd be,
Or you enter your account or you add the account, it goes to the list or the end of the list.
okay. So in this case, right, we'll talk about that in a second. When we're looking at account numbers, right, the QuickBooks takes it as if all your assets are going to be 10,000, right? Your liabilities are going to be 20,000. Your equity is going to be 30,000, and so on and so forth. And your last but not least, your expenses are 60,000. Okay, that is QuickBooks' way of organizing their chart of accounts. This is their default settings. Now, if you prefer to use a different account number, then unfortunately you do have to go into every single one of them and assign a specific number. Like for example, I could say to keep myself organized, I'm going to refer my assets as A3500, A3500. My liabilities will be L2300. And then my equity could be E500. Okay? I can choose whatever kind of method that I want to organize my ideas. I can choose how I want it to be. But unfortunately, if you do have that, you do have to change them in each and every single individual one. Okay? Because in this case, by default, this is their way of organizing QuickBooks. But you can choose to organize your account numbers according how you want it to be. Okay? And again, that's the account number. So again, it's much more easier to do a 5-digit code versus memorizing a whole entire account number. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the next section, which is going to be, well, first off, how do I add an account? How do I create my chart of accounts? How do I put stuff in here? Well, that's pretty straightforward. You have two options, okay? Down at the bottom of your screen, you have this account with a drop down arrow, right? If you click this, it's going to bring you a drop-up menu and you have new, okay? If you click that, you're going to start creating your account, okay? Now, what if I don't want to do it that way? There's a second way to do it is you can go anywhere in your chart of accounts, right-click, and you have new as well. Okay, so there's only two ways to do it, right? So here, I just right-click and click new. Okay, now it's going to ask you a few questions before you get your account started. First off, what is your account type? Is it an income? Is it equity? Is it a bank account? Is it a credit card? Is it an equity account? And if it's none of those that you see up here, which is our typical account that you would create for, you can even go down to this drop-down menu and select what options that you have. Okay? So that's that right there. Okay? So in this case, I believe I am creating an expense account. Okay? And I'm going to go ahead and click continue. Okay? So then now you have this window right here where you can fill in as much information as you need about this account. So I'm going to go ahead and add an expense account. It's going to be for software, okay? And the description is going to be computer software. So account name, software, right? And account description is going to be, this is computer software. Okay. And I'm just going to go ahead. That's good enough information for me to go ahead and create my account. Now I'm going to go ahead and click save and close. Now notice this. I forgot to enter in an account number. What do I do now? In this case, well, first off, you need to make sure that you have a designated number for this account. And if you don't, you need to create one. But if you already have one, but you forgot to enter it in, no problem. You can right-click this and edit the information anytime. See right here, you have edit account. Or you can select it, go down to the bottom, and be able to edit this account as well. Okay, and I can click the edit button, and right here at the very top of the window tells me what account number am I going to put this as. And I believe this is 67300. Okay, and then once I do that, I click save and close, and then now it's going to put it in the account number order because I have account numbers, so it's going to put it in that order. And there it is. Okay. Now, if you notice, when I didn't have my account number, it was at the very top of my expense account. at the very top because it did not belong anywhere except for my expense account. Okay? I didn't assign a number to it, but no problem. You can always edit the account number at any given time. Okay? Hopefully that answered your question. Right? So once again, I've created that, and now the next section is going to be talking about how to remove my accounts. Now, especially when you're going through all of your chart of accounts, right? When we talk about the generic chart of accounts that we looked at when we created our company file, right? We had to select generic chart of accounts. But if we notice that at the end of the day, at the end of the month, we never use that account, then that will be the only exception that you can delete an account. Okay? Now, how do I delete it? Same thing. I can click on it, right click, and I can choose to delete the account. Okay? Or I can go down to the bottom and delete it as well. Now, there are some rules and exceptions to deleting accounts. Now, it's especially if you have used this account, that is definitely 100% not recommended, okay? If you use the account, that means this account has some kind of balance or has some kind of holding value to it, even if it is 0, okay? Because you used it and you are currently working in your data file, if you delete that entire transaction, you will put holes into your accounting. And a lot of oftentimes what happens is you're going to mess up your whole entire books, and you either have to go back and try to fix it, use a backup file to fix it, or you just have to start all over again. Okay? So that's the bad thing about deleting accounts that have been used. But if this account has not been ever used at all, not even in a transaction, it's just been in your chart of accounts, then that is going to be the safe reason for you to be able to delete it. Okay? Now, if you do have an account that has been used, you have 2 options that you can choose to do. Okay? Number 1 is to inactivate it, okay? And the second one is to merge it with another account, okay? So the first one is going to be talking about inactivating. Now, what does that even mean? This means that if I choose to no longer use this account, right? Right now, my chart of accounts is pretty lengthy, right? If something is on here and it's cluttering my workspace, or cluttering my chart of accounts because I no longer use that, let's say I incur an expense that I no longer use, then I can choose to either get rid of it or hide it. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hide it because I no longer use it. I don't want my chart of accounts to be cluttered with so much stuff, especially if when you're running your reports, I don't want to see these accounts pop up if it's not being used. So what I can do is I can, for example, let's say software, the one that we just created, right? I can right click it and then I have the option to make account inactive, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. So when I click that, boom, my software account does not exist anymore. It's gone. It's off my list. Okay? Let's do another one, but using the other way. So let's say postage stamps, right? I'm going to go down to my account at the bottom, and I'm going to choose to make account inactive. Okay? All right, so where did they go? Right now, they don't exist on my my chart of accounts. They're gone. Okay? But that's not 100% true, right? If you go down to the very bottom of the window, what you're going to notice is you have this little square right here that says include inactive. So if I go ahead and check mark this, what you're going to notice is now it's going to show you your full view of all your chart of accounts, including accounts that no longer are being used. Okay? Now, do not worry. What you can do is, well, what if I decide this month I'm going to be using postage stamps? Well, you can just right click it and make it active again. Okay? Make account active. Okay? Or the simplest one is you see this X right here. You could just simply click on that X and it reactivates them. Okay? Straightforward. So this is necessary if you have an account that you don't really use anymore, right? But you have used it. The best way to do it is just inactivate it and hide it from your chart of accounts. And that prevents you from removing information that you've already had in previous transactions. Okay, it just hides them, or it doesn't show activity in them. Okay. All right. And also when you notice this, right, if I go ahead and so I look at my software, if I go ahead and edit my account here, right down at the bottom here, I can choose to inactivate my account right here as well. So that's your third option that you could do for inactivating your account. Right? So that's that right there. Now, here's a key thing that you need to know as well. If you're having multiple people use your this company file, oftentimes is that there's times where a lot of the employees or people who are using this file, they get confused and they're trying to find a specific account, but they can't find it. So they decided to just create new accounts just to put it there temporarily. So for example, right, I have software, right? But needless to say, what difference is that to be compared to computer and internet expense? Okay, so right above here, computer and internet expense. Isn't software part of computer? So in this case, right, if you ever come across where you have way too many accounts and you want to consolidate them, here is the perfect opportunity. Okay? Now, this one you have to be very careful with, because when you're doing this, once you merge these two accounts, you cannot undo them. So make sure this is an executive decision that you are going to for surely make. Are you going to combine the two? And if you are, that means you will not know when, because everything that you use software for will convert into whatever you use, for example, computers and internet expense. Okay? So therefore, you won't be able to tell the difference of when you started a software account or when you had a computer and internet expense. They're just together as one. Okay? So how do I do that? Well, let's take a look at the account that I do want. Okay? In this case, this account number is 61700, computer and internet expense. Okay, I need to look at exactly the account number, if you have account numbers, and the exact title. It is computer and internet expense. If you make a typo, it will not recognize it and will create a new account. So make sure everything that you're looking at, and make sure you spelled it correctly. Okay, so again, account number 61700. So what I'm going to do is, now that I memorize what the account that I want, right? I want it to look like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my software, okay? And I'm going to, this is the account that I do not want. I'm going to edit the information on this one, okay? So here's my software. What I'm going to do is I'm going to edit the information to look identical to the account that I want. So computer and internet expense. Okay, word for word. Now your description does not have to match. It's just only the account name. And because we have account numbers, it is crucial that the account number also exists the same. So in this case, it's not going to manually find it for you. You have to type it in yourself. So 61700. Okay? And then once I do that, I go ahead and click Save and Close. And what you're going to get is, boom, you're going to get an error code saying, hey, this account name and account number already exist. Do you want to merge these accounts? And that's where the question is yes or no. And then if I click yes, you're going to get a sound effect. And in this case, I only have computer and internet expense. I no longer have software. Okay? So that's what you can do if you are your chart of accounts is being way too cluttered and you want to consolidate. That's how you do it. You look at the one that you want. You memorize the exact account number and the exact title. You take the one that you don't want. You edit the information to match exactly what the account you do want. Enter, or in this case, save and close. And then you'll get that prompt where do you want to merge them? And then you just click yes. Okay? So any questions in regards to adding, editing, removing, and merging accounts? Okay. Yes, question?
Yeah, after being merged, I was reading the notes. They can no longer be unmerged, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you just put them together, added the expense, the amount, whatever it would be.
In this case, you do not change the account balance, okay?
Oh, you don't change.
No. You only change the name and the number.
Oh, we're only talking about the accounts. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we're not talking about adding expenses or anything like that. No.
Okay, thank you.
So your suggestion, if we want to learn, like remember all this,
Mm-hmm.
do we need to like do it with different computer? Like we listen to you and do it with our like hands on?
Correct. I recommend that, but you have to know what your parameters are for your computer. That's the best way to get the most out of this class is you watch me first, right? You go through the book, you watch me, and then afterwards you either go through the program on your own while reading the book because I'm teaching this from the book 100%.
Okay. And now you suggest like we start after we receive the book.
Yes. But in this case, I already gave you chapter 12.
Yeah. Is it online? Like I need to go to what is called it, the YouTube, because when I try yesterday, it's just give me YouTube. Is it that? That's it.
That's it.
Okay. Thank you.
May I ask a question
Go for it.
before I forget it? Following you with the readable notes that you sent, some of the notes are different from your presentation. I mean, do we also have the chance also to do the computer practice as the book says?
No, and that computer practice is for you to do on your own because with the time frame right now, it is almost time for class to end. I still have to go through one more section. So no, the practice problems are for you to be doing on your own.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because there are 14 chapters I have to go through in 15 days.
Okay, then. Thank you.
All right? So that's how you can add, remove, edit, delete an account. Any questions there? Okay, so let's talk about how we can organize it. So as you can see right now, it's right now being organized by account number. But what if I didn't have account numbers? What if I didn't even use account numbers? How can I reorder my chart of accounts? In this case, so let me turn off my account numbers so then you can kind of see, or actually you could keep it. So right here in gray, as you can see at the very, very top of the window, you can see there's headings on the top. You can choose account balance. Obviously, it's going to be put in order. But notice this. It's in order based on account type, right? I click on account balances, and it's in order by account type. We already know the default sorting is account type. But what about account name? Yeah, you can do that, account name, and it will change it in the order. But notice this. It's still in regards to the same order, right? It's still going to be in order between the account type number. And of course, because you have numbers, that's automatically going to put it in the exact order. But notice this, when I try to reorganize my chart of accounts, it ended up being the same. Now, let's go ahead and remove those account numbers real quick and see what I can do here. Okay, so remove account numbers, okay? So if I choose to remove my account numbers, now let's say I want to put my accounts in alphabetical order. Yes, you can do it. And it's going to be in order once again by account type. So it's going to put all of my my assets at the top, all of my equity in the middle, and then all of my expenses at the end. So at the end of the day, what are you really reorganizing your chart of accounts by? You're always going to be default organizing your chart of accounts by account type. So unfortunately, that's just the way it is, okay? So is there a real means to have to reorder it? No, not necessarily, okay? Now let's bring those account numbers back in real quick so that I can continue to show you the next portion here, okay? So then the next one is going to be saying, well, what if I want to reorder the way it is on my chart of accounts, if I want to manually move one account to another? Now, in this case, there is a rule of thumb here. Now, as you could see very, very, very closely, if you actually notice this, I'm going to zoom in real quick. If you notice this is a small diamond shape there. And if I roll my mouse on it, it becomes an arrow sign, okay? And with that being said, that means that allows me to move my numbers accordingly. Now, here is where you can and cannot do. So let's say I want to move my computer and internet expenses, and I want to move it below internet expense. Okay, it gives me that error because I have to unlock it. So let me unlock it. There you go. So here you go. If I want to move my computer and internet expenses, I can move it in between. Let's say I want to move it underneath insurance expense, right? And let's say I want to move interest expense to be at the top of my list. You can only move it within its account type. Now watch this. Let's say I want to move my equipment rental and I want to move it above, way up here, above where my equity is. It will give you an error message saying, no, you cannot move this item because of its account type. So in this case, is it really any point to actually reordering any of this information? No, it really isn't, because you can't really do much, right? You can only move it within its account type. You can only organize it alphabetically, but it's still by account type. You can't, at the end of the day, it's only going to be defaulted by account type. All right? Any information, any questions in regards to that? Okay.
I'm good.
Okay. So I'm going to scroll really quickly through the book here. So again, step 3, which was create my chart of accounts. So we are done with our chart of accounts. Now, memorize that way, because you're going to notice that when we create lists or when we create other things in QuickBooks, it's going to be more or less similar in steps. Okay? All right. So then step 4, once again, is looking at entering opening balances, okay, which is, again, we'll talk about, or in this case, opening balances, which is going to be using a journal. Step 5 is going to say entering in any income or any expenses. Step 6, entering any payroll information. 7, 8, 9, and 10, right? All of those are all going to be things that you're going to be learning throughout this book. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and skip forward to the next few sections here, because we cannot actually complete the rest of this without exposing you to the rest of the chapters, right? So in this case, recording your opening balances. So the best rule of thumb is you need your trial balance to do this, and you need chapter 6 to know how to do that. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and skip forward and get to, let's see, payroll, right, is, we're going to skip that to inventory, chapter 8. Okay. So here, let's talk about setting up users and passwords, okay? In your book, we're going to be setting up a random person, but you know what? I decided we'll jump a little bit off the book today, just because this one is not as, you know, easily recognizable than what I'm going to show you, okay? So the next section is going to be setting up users and passwords, okay? So as I've mentioned this before, right? Because we have the capabilities of building a company file, you can also create users for people to access the company file however you'd like. And you can set parameters and restrictions on what they can see and what they can have access to, all right? So this is where we're going to be setting up users and passwords. Now, let's talk about that one thing that we were talking about earlier when we were setting up our company file was to set up a password, all right? In this case, before we set up our users and passwords, let's figure out how we actually set up our password in general to protect our company file. So this, what you're going to do is you're going to go to company at your menu bar, okay? And then you have set up users and passwords, and what you have here is change your password, okay? So for the previous one that we looked at, you're going to click change your password and you'll enter in your password information as how you'd like, okay? Every file will have a different password. So in this one, it's Questiva21, all right, with a capital Q and 2 and 1. Now they do recommend you, they will give you whether your password is good or not, okay? So there is some rules and guidelines. So again, you need at least a capital letter, a lowercase letter, and at least a number, okay, to be able to get through with this password. If it's too weak or too easy, it will not let you save that password, okay? So again, Intuit is also being the protector here too, saying, hey, that's not a secure password enough. But that's how you do it here, is that when you are completely done with your company file and setting it up, you can set the password by going to company file, company menu, and then clicking on set up users and passwords and clicking on change your password, okay? Now let's go ahead and change my password real quick, okay? So then I can show you what you have to know when you do change your password. So in this case, who is the person that you are currently logged in as? Now, as the accountant, you must be the admin in order to create the company file. You must have this position. You must be the admin to create a company file. You cannot be a user. You cannot be a sales representative. You must be admin. And admin can be the only one to create those users, okay? So again, my current password is Questiva. So let's do that. Questiva 21 is my password, okay? What is my new password? I can say, I'm going to say my new password is photo321. Let's see if it will work, okay? So capital P, so confirm your password, capital P, HOTO321. Let's see if it works, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and click confirm. Okay, there you go. It works. So that's how you set up your username and password. So here you go. Your password has been changed. Okay. Now it's going to close your account because now it's saving that password. Okay. So then now my password is photo321. So let's go ahead and now, right, that's how you change the password and lock your data file, right? So let's go ahead and look at setting up users and passwords, okay? So if I go here and then I go ahead and click set up user. Now it's going to tell you that, hey, only the admin can create users. So in this case, right, I am the admin. I need to enter in my password, which was photo32321, okay? And then now it's going to allow me to create a new user. So again, because we have Premiere, right, we can create as many users as we like. Even though the parameters is it can only allow 3 to 5 users to access the file at one time, that is the criteria there. You can have 30 users, but only 5 can be the maximum that can use the file at one time. Now, if you're a company, right, your standard is what, 8 to 5? You have some people who come in for part-time. So maybe those part-time people can use it for those 4 hours, and then the next set of employees can use the next 4 hours, right? You can create as many users as you like. You're not limited to just those 3 to 5. Only 3 to 5 can access the file at one time. That's the criteria. You can create as many users as you'd like. So for this example here, right, I'm going to go off the book for this one because the example they give you in the book, it's kind of wonky. It doesn't really make sense, but I'll give you one that will make sense, okay? So let's go ahead and add a user. I'm going to call this user Human Resources, or HR for short, okay? And their password is going to be payroll22 exclamation point, okay? So capital P, AYROLL 22 exclamation point. That is their login information. And I'm going to go ahead and click next. So now HR, what can they have access to and what can they not have access to? So in this case, right, are they able to have all access to areas of QuickBooks, or are you going to select a certain area? In this case, does an HR who's going to pay my employees, does that person need anything to do with my sales? No, has nothing to do with the sales. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and set my areas and parameters to allow my HR to only have access in certain areas in QuickBooks. So I'm going to go ahead and click next. Okay, so here, the first one is saying, do they have access to sales and accounts receivable? They are HR. They don't need to even worry about what the company's making or what the company is selling. So in this case, no access. Next. Next question is purchasing and accounts payable. Do they need to buy stuff in order to pay employees? No. So in this case, no access. Next one. Do they need to have access to checking and credit cards? Yes, I think they should because, again, how are you going to pay your employees? You're going to pay them with a check. And if, worst case scenario, you pay them using a credit card. Okay? So full access or selective access. So can they create transactions? Yes. Can they create and print transactions? Even better. Okay? But in this case, I'm going to give them full access. Actually, no, I should just only. Okay. All right. Next. Now, inventory. Do they need to have access to inventory? No, that has nothing to do with employees. So, no. Time tracking. Yes, they need to see the timesheets that the employees put in. So they need to have full access to timesheets. Payroll and employees. Yes, they must have full access. Okay, sensitive data. No, they don't need to. Sensitive information about reporting. No, they don't necessarily need it. Okay, so once I've done that, now here's the question. Are you going to allow this person to be able to delete or edit transactions? So this is definitely a company policy rule. Depending on what the hierarchy of the chain of command is. If your HR is responsible for paying for your checks and stuff, they're probably at a high level. Okay? They're not an employee, right? They got to be high up there to be responsible for all the finances. So usually the top 3 is, president, secretary, treasurer, right? Same thing. So in this case, the hierarchy here is this person's got to be high up level. They should be able to delete and edit information as they please. But the only difference is if this is a person that's just on the payroll and their responsible is just to pay the employees, then you may need to keep track of them because they could be writing themselves a check without you doing. Okay? So in this case, do you allow them to? Now, it could be very difficult, especially if you are the accountant and they need permission for you to change or delete a transaction. Then that's also another chain of command where do you want that responsibility? So in this case, can they delete the transactions? I'm going to allow them. Yes. Should the user also be able to change or delete trans? Yes. Okay. And I click next. So this is going to be an overview of what they can and cannot have access to. So obviously HR not going to have access to sales, inventory, accounts payable, any of those information, but they are going to have access to timesheets and employees and payroll. So in this case, I can go ahead and click finish. And now when you log in, so you're going to notice that when you log off or close your account, you do have the option to log in as the admin or the human resources, okay? And that's how you create a new user and password. Any questions? Okay.
No.
I'm good.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and close this part out. Let me see how much time we have. So the last really real quick thing is how do I make my file open to let everybody use the company file? Well, that's pretty straightforward, okay? Now, in this case, you do need to have a few requirements, okay? Because this can only be done in an actual office setting, okay? An office setting where all the computers are connected to the same internet, right? And they all are connected to the same network, all right? So there's a little IT terminology that you do need to know for this to happen. If for example, me, I'm at home, I am not in the office, can I have access to the company file? No, I cannot have access to the company file. Reason being is because I am on a completely separate network than my company, right? I'm using the network at my own home where they're using a separate network that is used in the office. Can I remote in? No. There's no way that I can be able to have access to the company file because I'm not on a shared network. Now, if you are in the office and you are on a shared network, then this is where you can go ahead and allow the admin. Only the admin can be able to do this. I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to switch to multi-user mode. So once I do this, I'm in the office, right? If I turn on my computer and log into QuickBooks and I select that I want to have this on multi-user mode, then that means my coworkers or anybody in the office can be able to have access to this company file at the same time as me, okay? Now again, given on what kind of program you are, right? If you're pro, you only have 1 to 3. If you have Premiere, it's 3 to 5. If you have Enterprise, you can have up to 30, okay? So again, if you do this, it doesn't really change much in regards to the profile itself, but it does make it so that people who are on the same network can have access to this file. Now, here's also one other criteria you need to know too. Anybody that is going to be a user and that wants to use this exact company file. They need to have the same exact edition and the same exact program as what you are using. Okay, whatever the admin's using. So if I'm using QuickBooks Premier 2021, that means everybody in the office must use the same exact program. If someone else has QuickBooks 2019, they cannot have access to this file. If someone is using QuickBooks Enterprise 2020, they cannot have access to this file. They all have to have the same network, the same program, same edition. Okay? So that's why companies spend the big money all at once, so then they can maximize the ability to enter in income and expenses without any issues. Okay? So that's the last thing I'm going to talk about, and that is it for chapter 12. Any questions?
No.
All right, so let's go ahead and prepare ourselves to go ahead and do the multiple choice questions here, okay? Number 1, okay? So we're going to be selecting the best answers for each of the following, okay? So number 1, okay? Your company has decided to begin using QuickBooks at the beginning of 2025, okay? And in this case, calendar year, okay? Which is also the fiscal year, okay? So they're starting in January, okay? What is the best start date for your company file setup? C, right? C, which is going to be December 31st of 2024, right? I already showed you an example, right?
Yeah.
All right, number 2, okay? The chapter suggests that the best way to set up accounts receivable and accounts payable balances in QuickBooks is to, so once again, this is something you had to do your reading for. What is the best way to put in accounts receivable and accounts payable, which is AR and PR? So money that people owe you on an account versus people that you owe money to on an account. What is the best way to enter those account balances into QuickBooks?
C.
Okay, let's take a look. B, enter in the balance of each account by editing the account and putting of the chart of account, editing the account in the chart of accounts. In this case, right, if you put in an account balance in the chart of accounts, if I put in $5,000 in my accounts receivable, does that tell me who owes me that money?
No.
No. C says use a special account called accounts receivable setup and accounts payable setup to record those opening balances. Once again, if you create those separate accounts and you add those account balances, do you know who owes you that money?
No.
No. So D would be the correct answer, where you're going to be entering each separate invoice for all your accounts receivable, so the people who owe you the money, for each open invoice, and so on and so forth for each accounts payable. Okay, so in this case, that way, when you build your accounts payable, you know exactly who owes you that money, and you know exactly who you owe money to. So in this case, that is letter D. Okay. So that section is going to be in the step 5 of the 12 steps. Okay?
Step 5.
Mm-hmm. Number 3, okay? Setting up a company file does not include. So here's the key word, not. Okay, does not include.
D.
A.
So number 3, you say D, entering invoices. That is one of the steps to set up your company file.
Oh, so it is A. Okay.
Okay, yes, good. It is A, right? Containing a business license. Again, like I've mentioned before, are you obligated to have a business license?
If it's a legitimate business, yes.
If it's a legitimate business, but what can you use QuickBooks for?
Bookkeeping.
You can, okay, let's say non-business related. Can you use it for your personal?
Yes.
And if you have a personal account, are you a business?
No.
No. So do you have to acquire a business license? No. So no, they don't ask you to obtain one, but if you have one, then that's going to benefit you to put in your tax ID number and so on and so forth. Okay. Number 4, a good example of a liability account is, so remember, liabilities are going to be anything that you owe to other people.
D.
D, accounts payable, right? Accounts payable is one of those accounts that you recognize that you place an account. So, for example, if I shop at Macy's, right, and they say, would you like to open an account? That's me not paying now. That's me paying later, right? That's me having an account with Macy's. So that's therefore I call that an accounts payable. Okay. Advertising is going to be an expense. Okay. Accounts receivable, once again, it's one of those words that you determine when customers owe you money. Okay. And inventory is an asset. You own inventory. So not a liability. Number 5. Okay. To ensure the accuracy of the information entered during the setup, okay, it is important to
My answer is C.
let's take a look. Start at the beginning of the fiscal period. We talked about that, right? The start date. Do you start at the very beginning? Is it necessary to? Not really. Again, if you're a business that's starting off completely brand spanking new, I can start in June if I wanted to and say my fiscal year is January. Okay? So C is not the right answer. Any other guesses?
I'm going with B.
B.
Yeah, verify that your balance matches the accountant's balance.
Correct, right? That is to ensure the accuracy of your accounting because then if you are a pre-existing company, right, and you're trying to set up your QuickBooks file, what is the one thing that you can for surely guarantee is correct? Your trial balance, right? Because it's already information that's been passed down to you to set up your chart of accounts, right? It's for you to set up your bank account. It's for you to set up all the other accounts, including your accounts receivable and accounts payable. So in this case, that is the best way. Okay. Number 6, okay, close opening balance equity into retained earnings by. So in this case, you had to do your reading here too. This is step 11.
I don't really understand this question, Lynn. Close opening balance equity?
So when you start out your company file, right, it's going to automatically refer your equity as open balance equity. Okay? Now, because they use terminologies like retained earnings, which is a corporate terminology, retained earnings is once you actually begin starting out your company, right? You need to close that account out into your retained earnings because your retained earnings is going to be what your true equity is. Okay?
One more time. Your retained earnings are what?
It's going to be what your true equity account is.
Oh.
So if you remember, right, from accounting, you need to close out all your revenues and all your expenses to what account? The income summary, right? But once you
Right.
close that income summary, the income summary is more or less the same thing as a retained earnings.
Oh, okay.
So in this case, what do you need to do?
My guess is creating a general journal entry.
That is correct, right? This is in your reading, okay? It's step 11 of your 12 steps to set up your company file. Okay? Number 7, okay? If you no longer need an account in the chart of accounts, you can delete it. However, if it has been used, okay, or this transaction been posted to your account, you cannot delete it. Instead, you should do what?
C,
C. Okay, 7, which is you can choose to either deactivate it or merge it with another account. Good. Right. Number 8, okay, which of the following is not a way to inactivate an account? So in the keyword, not. Let's take a look. See, edit the account and then click account inactivate. That is a way.
my answer is C.
C, that no, we just talked about C. C is a way. That's correct. Remember, if you remember, that's a way that you can inactivate an account.
Oh, I thought you said D. Okay.
Oh, okay. No, D is the correct answer.
So D is the correct answer.
Yeah, D to select the account and then click at the bottom to include inactivated accounts and a checkbox at the bottom of the chart of accounts. No, that is not a way that you inactivate it. You have to manually inactivate it by either right-clicking on it or selecting the account at the bottom and make it inactive, or you can choose to edit the account and at the very bottom of the page you can inactivate it. But no, D is one of the options that does not exist. Okay, that's how to display inactive accounts, but it's not to inactivate them themselves. Okay. Number 9, okay, when account numbers are turned off, okay, and you click on the name header, what happens? So if you remember, right, if you go on your chart of accounts, okay, it is A, right? You click on the chart of accounts, right, and you click on the name. What does it do? It puts it in alphabetical order. Okay, that's if you don't have account numbers on though. Okay, good. So A, it will sort it in alphabetical order. Okay. Number 10, okay, as the administrator, okay, you can set up new users of the file, and of course you can also restrict access to several areas. Okay, sorry, I have a problem. in the program, okay? So which is something you cannot restrict?
A and D doesn't make sense.
Which one?
A and D.
A and D.
One
Well,
account or restricting all.
let's take a look at A, accessing to all bank accounts. Now, in this case, if you remember that very section, right, you have access to checking and credit cards. And then down below, you have the questions whether you want full access, selected access, or something like that, right? In this case, right, can you have access to all bank accounts?
I would say no.
In general, rule of thumb, you shouldn't. But in this case, if you are allowing access to the checking account and to credit cards, that's more or less access to all bank accounts, because a credit card is also considered a bank account, is it not?
Yeah.
There you go. So there, okay, so that's A. So A is not correct. But you said D, access to one bank account, but no access to another bank account. That one is true. Okay, so D is going to be you cannot have access, okay? You can tell someone, you cannot say they can have access to the checking account, but they can't have access to the credit card. No, in this case, it's one or the other. Or it's one or no.
So the answer is D.
Answer is D. Okay. Okay. Number 11. Okay? When verifying your setup, create a balance sheet and verify that the retained earnings matches the trial balance from the accountant. Okay? If your start date is December 31st, okay, what date should you use on this balance sheet?
Is it D, December 30th?
January 1st.
It should be January 1st. Okay, so in this case, right, because this is what they're trying to say right here, right? If you're trying to create a balance sheet, right, after verifying that your trial balance has been done, but if your trial balance has been done on December 31st, how do you verify that you did you enter everything correctly? By putting in a trial balance that's set for the very first date. So in this
Okay,
case,
got it.
January 1st would be correct because that will verify that everything that you put in as of December 31st matches everything that you put in for January 1st. Okay. Number 12, to set up the opening balance in your sales tax payable account, okay? Wait until after you've entered, okay, all of your open invoices, then adjust the sales tax payable account for the additional sales tax. Why is this adjustment necessary? Why is this adjustment necessary to have to go in, put in your sales tax, then put in your invoices, and then have to adjust it again? Think of it in real life terms, okay? You decided to put a lump sum money into one account, and then you use your invoices to match the amount that's in that account. But if it doesn't match, you need to adjust it so that it does match. So in real life terms, right, if you put in sales tax that's not collected, and then you put in a list of all of your invoices, and the total amount of invoices does not match the total amount of sales tax that you've not collected, what does that tell you? It means you need to adjust it. So the answer is B, right? All right. Number 13, okay? Where does QuickBooks place new accounts in the chart of accounts after it has been after it's been manually recorded? Okay, so I did show you the example today.
Is it A?
Mhm.
It's sorted within the account, correct?
No. Okay, so in this case, alphabetically, within the account type. Okay, so in this case, it's referring to
Does this mean that there is already an account number? Because if there's no account number, it would be at the top of the list within its account type.
correct.
Yeah, that's what I go with.
It is C. It is going to be at the top of the list. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to have account numbers. In this case, yes, because that's how it makes it to the top of the list. But if you don't have account numbers, then yes, it will put it in automatically alphabetically. Okay, so in this case, this question's kind of missing a piece of information, which is if your account numbers are turned on, then what happens? Okay, but yes, that is the answer. It does go to the top of the list according to account type. Okay. Number 14, okay, if you have an open invoice, okay, for an inventory item on your start date, okay, to properly set up your inventory balance, okay, quantity and value, what do you need to do? So this is step 8. Okay. So in this case, this question again is step 8. If you read the book, you would know the answer. But if you didn't read this section, this is where answer B is going to come into play. I will teach you this in chapter 8. Okay, chapter 8, you will be using what's called an inventory adjustment transaction. All right, it is like a journal, but it's a different journal. And again, it's going to be in chapter 8. So the answer is you're going to use that B. You're going to use that to adjust the number of quantity of units that you have on hand after you put in the account balance. Okay. And then last but not least, 15. Okay, which of the following do you set up using the Easy Step interview?
It's A.
Yeah, that's my answer too.
Default accounts is correct. Okay, let's take a look at the other answers. B, outstanding checks and deposits. Nope, you don't need to set that up. C, inventory. Nope, you don't need to set that up. And D, sales tax. No, you're only setting up default accounts. Okay, all of these extra three things here are when you're going to be setting up the opening balances, which isn't part of the Easy Step interview. Okay. All right. The rest of these things are for you guys to do on your own. So again, whether you're doing the fill in the blank, you can even test yourself using these 5 questions up here to test yourself on your knowledge on this chapter. Again, I don't recommend you to do it per se just because we didn't learn the rest of the chapter. So I do recommend this to be something that you do again after we completed the course. So but what you can do is you can do this on your own, is do question number 1 where you're practicing entering in a company and creating a company file, okay? And for those who were in my previous accounting class, I also recommend you to, for practice purposes only, go ahead and try putting in your own business plan and creating your own company file, okay? Other than that, if you have no more extra questions, you guys